America, we stand for freedom. Though freedom is never really free, we yearn and strive for government protecting our liberty.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know. I'll be your co-host today, Andrew Couture, and co-hosting with me is Mary Lotze, and this is brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. Tonight we're going to be doing something a little interesting. We're going to be talking about the booming economy of Donald Trump. Since his election to the 45th President of the United States in November of 2016, the stock market has truly enjoyed a speedy rise to epic levels. And to discuss this is our friend and friend of the Fitchburg Republicans, Elmer Eubanks. How are you doing today?
Good,
Elmer?
Nice to see you again.
And Elmer is actually an instructor of economics at Mount Wachusett Community College and Quinsagmond Community College?
Yes, at both, yeah.
First thing, Elmer, can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
So yeah, I've been teaching economics for the last 5 years. I'm originally from Costa Rica, came here, I've owned businesses, I've lost money, I've made money, and now I'm trying to impart that to some of the students at the community college level and bringing some of the real life experiences into the classroom to understand how the economy works and how we all interact with it. So that's a little bit of my background.
Well, as I was discussing in the opening monologue, I mean, the economy has really gone through the roof, so to speak. Now, I was with you on election night at WPKZ, and that's the local radio station, and we were doing a kind of like a reading the numbers of the polls type of thing, and we were watching the results come in across the nation. We were discussing the pros and cons of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We also talked that evening about the anybody but Trumpers and how the economy was going to take a nosedive. Are they eating their words?
I believe so. They definitely are now, right? They have to take some of those words back and say, hey, you know, because they were saying that it was going to be the worst economy, that it was going to be bad for, you know, Trump's going to be bad for us, and it hasn't been, right? Looking at the results, you're seeing
record numbers almost every week.
But ironically, that night, after election night, the stock market did kind of falter a little bit early on. I mean, it really did take a nosedive very early on. It dropped 300 or 400 points, but by noon the next day, when the dust settled, it was back up. Started going up, and it never stopped.
It's gone up ever since.
Almost 7,000.
In fact, it reminds me of it was probably a few months before the election. Yeah, I believe it was one of the Boston papers came out with a mock headline of what the news would look like with Donald Trump as president. And it's war, you know, economy's crashing. Yeah. You know, it really was a farce, so to speak. They were just so against this man becoming president. In fact, Paul Krugman was all but alarming folks to the fear of, you know, financial Armageddon should Donald Trump win the election. But nothing like that happened.
Correct. Yeah, just not at all. It's the opposite.
So, what do you? Is this exuberance a sign of consumer confidence, greed, or what are you thinking?
It is consumer confidence, and in economics, we're looking at how people behave and how they interact with the economy. And if people are feeling well and they're feeling fine, and they know that there's jobs in the market that are coming in, our behavior changes. We're going to feel like we can spend more money, and our economy depends on how people spend their money. If we're not spending our money, then the economy is not moving at all, because everybody starts to hold back and say, well, you know, I'm not going to buy that next, you know, car. I'm going to buy a used car instead, or I'm not going to do any investments. And everybody starts holding back. Everything starts to fall apart too. So it's one of those things that our behaviors, and as people are looking to everybody else, my neighbor's losing their job, they're losing their house, that's what really drives the economy into the ground, right? Is everybody's behavior as they're interacting with the economy. And as we feel confident that the economy is improving, that jobs are coming back to the United States, that we're moving money, we changed the tax system so we can bring money back in, and that's really changing the interaction. People are feeling, well, you know what, I can start spending again. I don't feel like I'm going to be, I'm going to have to hold all my money down, because now I can go back out and spend it and feel good. And if it's my spending is actually your benefit, because you're going to be able to buy something with the money that you sell to me. So it's things that you sell to me, I'll be able to use and sell forward, and buy more things. And that's really what drives the economy.
Well, it also reminds me, Obama came out and said, the manufacturing jobs, they're gone. They're not coming back. And I've actually seen one of those memes on Facebook where it has Obama's face on it saying, that's it, they're not coming back. And you have Trump saying, hold my beer. Yeah. Because, it's just, it has come rocketing back. In fact, Apple's coming in.
Apple's bring everything back.
That is, nobody ever saw that coming.
And I saw it coming back in 2010 in California. I was working with a lot of at Citibank, and I was doing commercial loans. And I was seeing a lot of the companies that do the clothing manufacturing in the garment industry bringing back their manufacturing back to LA. And that was happening back in 2010. So already you started to see some of that, but that had nothing to do with the economy. It had to be with technology, with improvements of how, you don't have to send something all the way to China to get manufactured anymore, because our technology has improved and we can do stuff here. And we had these big machines that would just cut all these patterns, and then they would ship them across the border to Mexico, get them assembled, and bring them right back. It's a lot faster than waiting, for a ship for 30, 40 days to come from China. So that was helping too, but their investment was not really. Now that Trump moved the whole thing a little bit to the right, where alleviated some of these companies so they could actually do investments and buy equipment and invest in bringing that money back here, because a lot of that money was staying outside the United States. It was, Apple, billions of dollars, all parked, in Europe and Ireland and other countries, and they were offshore. They weren't coming here. And now that we've changed the tax law, or our tax system a little bit, lowered the rates, then they're, well, we can bring some of that money back and reinvest here in the United States, creating jobs. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't see in the economy, is that they keep blaming, like, we're giving the money to the rich. But it depends on how we give it to the rich, right? If we're giving it so they can reinvest and create more jobs, because who really pays the taxes is the people who are working, right? We're the working people who are paying the taxes and making the economy move and getting the government going. So if you can bring those jobs back and bring the companies to reinvest and investors to feel comfortable that they're going to make a profit by hiring more people to produce the goods that they need to produce, then we're going to see a big change. And that's starting to happen. And already the indicators were there. As soon as Trump changed, we did this whole law change of our taxes, everything starts to come into fruition, because now you can take that money and say, well, I'm going to reinvest it. I can make a profit again. And yeah, they might get richer, but at the same time, we're going to get more jobs, and people are going to the economy is going to start to move again, and people are going to feel free to spend and get the bonuses. And so that's really what's driving it. And if you go to the crux of what really is the issue in the economy, that's what it is. It's being able to invest and be more productive. And the more productive we are, that's really what drives how much more we'll be making in the economy.
Well, actually, it was a couple of weeks ago, I got into a heated discussion with an associate of mine, of course, liberal Democrat, and he said, well, all this recovery is from Obama policies. How? And I said, there's just no way. How is that individual wrong?
He's got to be wrong, because we were way far left. We were taxing everybody. We're moving the economy to the left. We're gonna spread our wealth with everybody else, take it from the rich, give it to the poor. That was the mentality that was going on with Obama, and that never works. I've seen it in Nicaragua. I've seen it in Venezuela. You've seen it in Cuba. Anytime the government is moving to the left, where they're not letting the free economy work, it's a disaster. So
Well, that was going to
work.
be my next question to you is, you coming from, you said Costa Rica.
Yeah, I was born in Costa Rica.
Okay.
I've lived in Guatemala, Nicaragua,
Okay.
Colombia.
But I mean,
so-
you've seen this firsthand.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at what's happening with Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Yeah, it's incredible to see how, you know, their government controls and moving towards, you know, the left and socialism, and they're taking it. You know, if you don't have property rights, and that's one of the things that is the stability of an economy, being able to know that you own your property, that no one's going to take it away from you. And that's what they start doing. They start taking away your properties. Oh, you own 2 cars, you got to give one to the rest of the people, you own 2 homes, well, you can't have 2 homes. We'll give them. That happened in Nicaragua when the Sandinistas took over. They started distributing the properties that people owned. And yes, you know, you had a lot of people that owned a lot of property, and it's a small country with a lot of land and few people. There wasn't a lot of people. A lot of them died in the war too. But that aspect of taking people's property away and redistributing the wealth, that never works. Because why am I going to work if you're going to take away what I produce? Why am I going to buy a piece of property if tomorrow you're going to take it away from me? What's the incentive? There's none. So that's what's happening in Venezuela now. There's no incentive. All the people that were in manufacturing, they left. They took their money when they could, and they abandoned ship, and they're in Miami. And you know, Spalding, some of those big companies that made the tennis balls and other countries, they moved out of Venezuela. They couldn't afford to stay there anymore because they were being told how much they're going to be producing and how much they're going to charge for their products, which you can't do if in a free economy. And that really drives the economy crazy because, you know, if I'm not going to have my property respected, then I'm going to pick up and I'm going to move somewhere else where they're going to respect my properties and have my property rights, you know, legally. No one's going to take it away from me.
You know, Andrew, one of the things that I think what I'm hearing is that, are you speaking of the difference between a free economy and a government-run economy? And I think of President Obama, and one of his things, because he did come in 2008 when our economy was tanking primarily because of the housing. And what he did was his plan to bring back the economy was for government intervention. I mean, and I think of one of the highest things was buying old cars. You know, you had a perfectly good used car, and we had to take it from you and stamp it. It had to be destroyed. I mean, that was like government intervention at the max. And that's what I hear you talking about. The difference between a burgeoning economy is one that is free and open, and a poor economy or a socialist economy is one that the government feels that they can run everything.
Correct. Yeah, and that's where the government's imposing what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what you're supposed to buy, what you're supposed to sell, what prices. They put price controls on everything and tell you what your price of rice is going to be, the price of beans. So that really is something that doesn't incentivize anybody to actually be able to spend anything, because you're like, I'm going to hoard my, you know, whatever I have because I don't know what the government's going to do. And in a free economy, we all, even though we're acting in our own self-interest, which is kind of the Adam Smith of economics, right? We are, even though we're looking at our own self-interest, by us buying stuff from you and interacting individually and freely, I buy what I need or what I think I want from you, and you buy what you think from her, and it moves the economy along. And it's kind of that invisible hand that he talked about in his treaty. So that's some of the things that in the economics you look at, and yeah, it doesn't work. And as far as we've seen historically, it has never worked. And why we keep messing with that system, it's incredible that we're still talking about, in this day and age, looking at what's happened in all the different countries, China, Russia, all the countries that have gone to the left, it never worked. So
Well, I mean, it reminds me of when Obama, said, well, you have a profitable company, you didn't build that.
Yeah. That was Elizabeth Warren,
and
wasn't
Elizabeth
it?
Warren parroted him, as well as I believe many other left Democrats that were striving for a socialist economy, and it's almost like they didn't learn from history. They skipped that day in history class.
They didn't. And if you look at Greece was a perfect example. their government went broke. And then why was that? Because pretty much everybody, I would say almost 70 to 80% of Greece's economy was being, government run. So the government was paying, all the teachers. The school is socialized. The educational, so the electricity is owned by the government. Everything's controlled by the government. So and you know that they're inefficient.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, my wife is Greek, and during that crisis we were discussing what was going on, and people were retiring at 40. I mean, I'm sorry, but you can't retire at 40, drink ouzo, and lay on the beach all day.
Yeah.
That just
your
doesn't work.
Your economy stands still at that
Well,
point.
your government's paying for it, but eventually, who's funding the government?
You're going to run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Margaret Thatcher's famous expression.
Now, I hear some of the Trump naysayers said that this rapid increase in the stock market is merely an economic bubble that's going to pop.
Well,
how are they wrong?
And I think that their knee-jerk reaction is to do that, right? Is to say that it's not going to last. And yeah, we go in cycles.
Yeah,
and
it
so
ebbs and flows.
it's going to go and that's what the government needs to try to, sometimes they put the brakes on too fast, and by raising interest rates, and then it pulls the economy back too fast. So yes, it could happen. We could be over exuberant and have an economy keep growing. Now, what really drives the economy is productivity. So if we're more productive, as we're improving our economic situation, as we get educated, as we learn new tools, new things to do, how to improve our lives, that's really what drives the economy. So we might see it, people tend to get exuberant and start like, let me go buy more shares and buy more homes and buy more of this. And yeah, that'll come to a peak, and yeah, there'll be a bubble eventually. But it's managing that up and down of the economy that really needs to be controlled. And sometimes the government actually puts in too heavy hand, and it makes it worse instead of letting it automatically adjust itself. It will adjust. It always does.
Well, Trump, as a businessman, I mean, he understands economics. He understands the nature of business. I think he should be able to maintain this for the rest of his term.
I would venture to say if it goes this well, he'd probably hit another term. Because I think people feel that people vote with their pockets, right? If they're feeling that they're doing well, and the housing market's doing well, and they're able to produce and buy their homes and buy their cars and go along their business, Trump is going to probably be there for a lot longer time than you would think.
Now, I hear a lot of working folks say that the rapidly increasing stock market has no impact on them. It's only for the wealthy. Now, for some reason, every time I look at my retirement, I have a smile on my face. I don't have much, but it keeps going up and up. Why is it that so many people don't realize that they are too in the market?
Well, I think that's what we were talking about that earlier too. It's like the reason people don't think about it because they don't realize that their money, their 401ks, are being invested in the stock market as well. And so as their 401ks are improving and maintaining, we lost a lot of that in the past couple of years before Trump came to power. We lost a lot of our 401ks. I mean, I worked for Fannie Mae, and I lost all my shares that I had at Fannie Mae. They were gone. In 2007, when the government took over, they wiped us out, and they wiped out a lot of small banks that had investments in Fannie Mae. So that's the government intervention, heavy-handed, and getting into our pockets. And if they just let the market work their way, people realize that we're invested as well, and it's not only the rich that are invested in the stock market. It's a mechanism that we have that allows us to actually save some money to retire. And you'll start to see more and more people start to retire, and you'll start seeing more people feel confident that, okay, now I can retire again. And at 60, now people are working till they're 68, 70 because they couldn't afford it because their 401ks had dropped in value. And so now we'll start to see some of that come back. And maybe more jobs for the younger group that is coming up, because they're retiring, and we'll need more people to actually take take those seats.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, a good point to go off what you were saying is when we were when my wife and I were in college, everybody was striving, you know, there's going to be a nursing shortage, there's going to be a nursing shortage, you know. Everybody was going into nursing. And for the past couple of years, there were no jobs. There was no shortage. Right. Why? Because the people that should have retired couldn't because the economy just bottomed out.
Right. Yeah, they just couldn't. So you had that slowdown of you know, they couldn't go and retire.
Yeah.
So,
Elmer, a strong economy, we've spent a lot of time talking about this wonderful stock market, but a strong economy is more than just the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ and the S&P. I mean, there are other economic indicators out there that we should be looking at. And by all accounts, those seem to be going well also under a Trump economy. What are those and why are they also going up? Is it all interconnected? Is everything really all interconnected?
it is, because, you know, what I spend is what you receive, right? If I'm spending my money, you're going to be able to use it to, you know, if I'm buying something from you.
If you're buying from Costco and I work at Costco, I'm going to keep my job longer.
Right, correct. And so that is one indicator. So we look at unemployment as an indicator, and you can see as the companies are reinvesting back in the United States, unemployment is going down, and actually we're what they consider full employment now.
Sure, we're under 4%, aren't we? Yes.
And even, you know, some people criticize Trump for saying that when Obama was saying it before that, oh, you know, the unemployment rate is down, and he criticized Obama for that. Well, yeah, I mean, we don't really look, in economics, we don't really look at everybody that's unemployed. We just look at the people that are looking for work, that are unemployed and still looking. And so the moment you stop looking for work, you're not counted anymore. But in this economy, we're looking at people actually getting jobs.
Well,
So
to
that
go
changes.
along with that, I think not only is the unemployment numbers very low, but people collecting and food stamps have also dropped.
Yes, which helps us too, because, you know, we can focus on the really people that need some skills, that really need the help. And before that, I'd say during the Obama years, a lot of people were just living off the you know, what's my incentive to work if I can get $50,000 worth of welfare by getting my housing paid, by getting my you know food stamps and everything. So what's my incentive? I'll just stay at home and collect. And as we move away from that, I think we'll start to see where there's more incentive to actually go back to work.
One of the things with the tax law that was passed at the end of 2017, again, a lot of people will say that, well, I'm a homeowner, it's not going to impact on me. And I do hear something about high tax states that people may not. Could you maybe shed some light on why the tax may not help some people?
Yeah, I mean, there's some. It might not hit everybody, but everybody's going to get a little piece of it too. So, from what I can understand from it, you are going to get some benefit from it. And there, you know, some people, like in high tax states, that pay a lot of taxes in their home, and that home deduction was actually allowed in the federal tax, and I think they moved some of that away. And that's why some people are like rushing to pay their taxes early
before the end of the year.
Yeah, and that they might get hurt a little bit. But, you know, there's people that are paying $8,000-$10,000 a year in taxes that were writing it off on the federal side.
Sure.
So, you know, it's actually hitting some of the richer people too. So it's not totally hitting
But
everybody.
what will, I think, impact on everybody is double the personal deduction. And I think so for people who say, well, it won't impact on me, I mean, that will impact on every employee. Where, what was it, $1,200, and now it's going to $2,400, you can automatically take right off the top.
Yeah, and you'll be able to double your what is that
Personal
called? The personal deduction as well. So that's going to also increase, and that'll help us in the long run. Because now I'm going to be able to have, you know, I don't need to itemize that much. If I'm, you know, I'll be able to collect, you know, be able to throw, I think it's like 12,000, I believe.
Something.
That you can not have to itemize now.
Didn't they also increase the child?
They increase the tax, child earned income, what is it, the child tax credit?
Yes.
They increased that as well, yeah.
Yes, by double again.
They doubled
isn't
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doubled
they
it.
doubled
And
it.
I think that people aren't realizing that those are some of the subtle nuances of this tax bill. They're hearing a lot of companies coming back and things like that, but they're not understanding what it will do do for them personally. And I think that's a big impact of the tax.
Yeah, and maybe it could have been larger, but we do have to pay.
Have to start somewhere.
We do have to get the government to work still, so we can't completely abandon the government, right? We got to give them some money.
Then why do we continue to hear so many Democrats say that this is only a tax relief for the rich, and that the average taxpayer will not find any tax savings from it? And we hear from the administration that everybody's going to see a little extra in their taxes. When.
Well, the Democrats are going to try to throw as much to negativity down the road anyway, right? And they're hoping something will stick, even if it's not true. But that's the reality. We'll just keep throwing it out there, and a lot of people
hoping people believe it.
Believe it, yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people still believe it because
it's fake news.
They're telling them that. So. Yeah. We're going to keep believing it because they're telling them that.
I know one thing that I can say. This is the February show, so we just got off of Christmas holidays and holiday shopping. And, being a retiree, I'm in the stores a lot just seeing what's out there. And, I've never seen shoppers and stores so packed every day, all day, during the day. Always people buying. And again, this was, I think my statistics show this Christmas shopping season has been the busiest since 2005. So we're going way back.
Yeah, it's actually showing the exuberance of people actually feeling that they could actually go out and buy stuff.
So what other economic indices have been on the power surge since Trump's election? Small business, they're up 104 points in 2017. Also, Bitcoin's going through the roof.
Yeah, that went through the roof.
Yeah, I got into it, when it was fairly low, but it's exploded.
Yeah.
Are these also other indicators of the power surge of President Trump?
It is, and I think it's really the confidence that people feel, that they're confident that they're not their regulations are getting removed, so they can actually feel that they're going to be able to participate in the economy, and that's really what's driving that.
Bitcoin, I just heard today that I don't remember, but it was a rapper, and he sold the rights of some of his songs for $400,000, and he accepted the payment in Bitcoin. He didn't even know what he was doing. He said, "Oh yeah, okay, give me Bitcoin." He's now worth, just on that sale alone, $7 million.
Yeah, easily. But it's ebbing and flowing. It's going up and down, but it has gone through the roof. What about the minimum wage?
So yeah, that's one of the big things that the Democrats harp on is minimum wage. Let's increase the minimum wage, and that's one of the things that, if you look at it, if I like to put it simple. If I have a small business and I got 2 employees and I'm giving them $10 each, and I got to make my budget, and all of a sudden you're going to make me pay $15 each. That's $30. What am I going to do? I'm going to lay off the one person so I can keep paying the other at 15. Mm-hmm. So that is a simple picture of what that is.
But now you have companies voluntarily increasing.
Yeah, and that's demand. As we need more labor, we're going to actually increase, and that's a better solution than actually artificially putting a price on it, because you can't go back.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't that one of the reasons that companies started giving incentives, whether it was bonuses or health insurance in the first place, was to keep good employees? That was the reason to keep them. This was certainly a very fast 30 minutes.
This was a quick show.
And I think I want to take that economics course after I've listened to this micro and macroeconomics. I feel like I could use a tutorial because this was so interesting. But thank you very much for coming tonight. You're a member of our group, and we can always pick your brain at meetings and off hours and things. So we thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting in with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to know and remember that your local city or town Republican Committee is your only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and conservative values. And after tonight, we can also add, and knows why we need a smaller government that keeps their paws out of our pockets.
Definitely.
We encourage you to join us. And why? Because to us, the GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people, and because we always stand for freedom. I thank you and good night.
America, we stand for freedom. reflects our values, that preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might, that reflects our values and preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and